Hey guys, welcome to the first episode of Backseat Consumers. I'm your host, Christian Martinez.
And I'm your host, Gabriel Martinez. So, we wanted to make this podcast about gaming. It's just been something we've had an interest in for a very long time, ever since we were little kids,
Yeah. And no matter what our parents said, they always could not make us stop gaming. Not that they really tried, but they more wanted us to focus on other stuff aside from just gaming. But, here we are.
Video games are probably one of the most amazing things still in my eyes. So,
And speaking of amazing things, today we have something planned for you where we're going to do a top 5. Basically, it's a top 10 because it's going to be his top 5 games, RPGs, JRPGs included, and my top 5 games, RPGs and JRPGs. So, the rules will be simple. We're going to flip that coin. I'll be heads, he'll be tails. And that's how we decide who goes first. And then we'll just go back and forth until we get to number 1.
Yeah.
So,
go ahead. Call heads? Alright.
I call heads. Getting better.
Heads.
So I go first. So we're going to start with number 5. Any guesses what number 5 is?
No idea. But I'm assuming it's not going to be already a game that I cannot expect it to be that low. So it's not going to be that. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you're starting off with, I guess, a little bit. Guess Mass Effect, Legendary Edition. I know it's technically a trilogy, but the problem is the whole trilogy I can't pick with just one game, so we're cheating a little bit. But I hope you guys enjoy that. It's in the top 5. And what could be said about this game that hasn't been said already? From the color scheme of, like, just based on the picture I'm showing you guys, or the cover, the red and blue, based on Renegade or Paragon, and just the choices you can make is so sick, in my opinion.
BioWare did an excellent job with that game.
This was when BioWare was on its best.
No, BioWare, it made sure that the content was done right. Yep. It made sure that all your connections with the characters were perfect. Yep. And I actually never beat a Mass Effect game.
You have to.
I started the first one and I ended up getting very busy, so I could not go further into it. But I enjoyed it a lot.
I remember I always heard about the series and I never really got into it because I never really had it. I never really bought it. And then one day I was looking for a new game at GameStop and then I just see this for $10 and I was like, why not give it a try? And I fell in love with the series.
My friends always tell me about it. It's one of those things I have to beat.
Are funny. And you could really role play that you're in the universe, which makes it so much good.
Which is perfect.
And then all the crew of the Normandy. You fall in love with the ship, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
And then you fall in love with the crew, each one of them. And the devastating part is, on your first playthrough, you could have some of them killed by your own actions, not knowing it. Because by not complete, especially in the second game, not completing a quest could have a character be killed in the end.
That is the worst in the game when one of your favorite characters die, and you're just no.
But what makes it good is it's the consequences of your own actions.
Yes, I think that's actually a very important thing to do in games. Like, you want players to get penalized for their consequences, like their actions. So you chose to save one person, but you risked the life of another.
And one of the best things about it is the endings, because depending on your if you're Paragon or Renegade, you can unlock the ability to get different endings on top of just exploration. They reward you for that. Like, if you're sitting there exploring every inch of the galaxy they put forward, you're gonna enjoy yourself.
Something tells me there's going to be a lot of games here that have that impactful decision making games in them, because that's a very common.
It's RPG.
I mean, it's not in every RPG. There's some that.
We're gonna put this in front so all of you guys up here.
Actually, that's the first.
It'll be the count. It'll be the tracker. Not all of the games we have, though, we have physical copies, because some of them we have digital.
Yeah, only we'll be putting the paper on the side.
For you guys in that camera to see right here.
Yeah.
But you gotta complete it, Gabe. And honestly, I think it's definitely one of my top 10 games of all time.
It honestly is a game I have to complete. But no, I can definitely tell the common trend that RPGs we're going to be talking about already. Really? But maybe not common trend. There's definitely some out there that are very different than that style. Because RPGs.
Speaking of different style, let's hopefully see if your number 5 is different from mine.
It's definitely different. So my number 5 actually don't own a physical copy. It's a game I played when I was pretty much a young lad.
young
Pokemon Platinum.
He's a laddie,
So I used to love this game a lot. Actually, when I played DS back then, I started off playing like Pokemon, like Diamond. Not the first Pokemon game I played. The first one I played was Red on the Game Boy Color. So that's years
I
ago.
remember that.
Yeah, years ago. But Platinum has a special place in my heart because there was something about like what you did in the game coming out like at that time period as a kid. I was like, oh my god, I'm walking sideways on walls. I'm doing all that.
And then Giratina, who we have right here. I'll show him to the camera.
Yeah,
But,
we do.
like, he is a really cool legend, but a little bit goofy looking. Like, if you look at him here, he's a little goofy looking. Even though he has two forms, he's still really cool.
Yeah, no, easily one of my favorites. We're gonna put you actually down.
Like, his whole dimension's really cool. The ability that he has the ability to, what's it called? I forgot what is his name. Distortion mode. That's it. Yeah. I remembered what it is, but I didn't remember the name.
It's one of those things where it's been a hot minute since I've actually played that story. I mean,
And I remember when he first got the game. When he first got the game, was after we both finished our respective games, which was I had Pearl, he had Diamond, and then when they announced Platinum, I remember he was like, I really want to get this, I really want to get this. So he basically dragged my dad to the store to get it, and then when he got it, he was like the happiest kid in the world.
it's one of my favorite Pokemon games of all time. I think it just had the most impact. It was the last game that I truly, really 100%ed. I've been on a Pokemon Scarlet binge, so I have been getting back into that like grind, but not since Platinum have I really truly like wanted to be like, this is something I wanted. I've done Legends of Arceus, but that's like a different style Pokemon game in my opinion.
And in my opinion, a lot of newer games are very brain dead easy.
Yeah, Platinum was very difficult.
Like,
I remember it was very difficult.
So we don't know.
That is also true. Yeah, I've actually thought about that. I was like, as a Pokemon game, like, was it difficult because we were kids and we didn't grasp it as much, or was it just because the level of gameplay over the years, like, actually has decreased? Like, has it got easier? But either way, that game still has a very special place. It's very important to me. Yeah.
Speaking of a special place in my heart, let's move on to my number 4, which is my first ever RPG. He knows what it is.
Yeah.
Based on that, Dragon Age Origins, for both of you to see, is my first ever RPG back on the PS3. When I first played it, I remember just being fascinated by how different it was from any game I've ever played. Then again, that's because it was an RPG. And I just loved the ability that you could create a character, you could roleplay as them, you could make them whatever you want, and it's another BioWare game when BioWare was at its peak, and not making whatever it does today.
Back then, yeah, that game actually was very iconic. I just remember, like, it was like one of the first few games we got on PS3.
It was that and Dead Space.
Dead Space, yeah.
Yep.
And
I was a chicken, so I could not play Dead Space. So
I used to love that game. But
Dragon Age it was.
Dragon Age was great though, and it was definitely a very big opener to a lot of RPGs for you. I could tell, and a lot of your taste derives from Dragon Age.
Because I like games where you have that choice. I like the games where you're able to like pursue like relationships with the characters, not even just romantic, but friendships with them. I like how it grows. It doesn't feel like the characters are stale. They have their own personalities. And one of my favorite characters ever is Morrigan and Alistair. Both of them are up there for me because their whole dynamic was good, everything. And the fact that, once again, you could be a dick or you could be like a hero in that.
No, it's a very well diverse RPG that for its time, like, there has been a lot of games after it.
Holds up pretty well for its time.
Yeah, like it's a stepping stone for a lot of RPGs today because a lot of them have took inspiration from games like Dragon Age Origins. I mean, look at Baldur's Gate.
Which, FYI, those of you that are wishing Baldur's Gate art or think Baldur's Gate, it's not because he hasn't finished it and I don't have a PC to play it. So it's not going to be on the list.
Yeah, it's a very time consuming game, and I don't like sitting at my computer all the time. Despite me liking gaming, I like to move around, so I haven't been able to play as much. So it's one of those things I need a Steam Deck for eventually. That's what I definitely need. But I'll consider that. Yeah, maybe. But yeah, no, it's a very quick.
It's a very good game, and for those of you that haven't played it, where the hell have you been since 2008? You should definitely get playing it because it's on PC now. Yeah. It's on Steam, and you could get it with all the DLC and a Legendary Edition for like $20.
If you're watching this video, that means you've probably played RPGs or have an interest in RPGs, or you're looking to support us. But if that's the case, the last one too. Yeah, if that's the case, like, and you haven't played the RPG, it's definitely recommended. You can definitely get it on PC very easily.
And now on to your next one.
So my next one, I actually do have the physical copy. Where is my physical copy? Yeah, it's slipped down. All right. So my next one is Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
I knew that was going to be up there. I just thought it was going to be in the top 3 because, funny enough, that game was introduced to him by moi.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the game, and I remember what happened was I walked upstairs and you were telling me this game you were playing, and I've heard of it.
I think it was in Tantal when that happened. I think I was in it, and you were like, "Oh, this environment's good," and I was telling you about the blades because you were like, he was on a Pokemon binge when that was happening, and I was.
Was it Pokemon or was it?
You were on.
Was it a fan game binge or something like that?
Yeah, you were on a Pokemon fan game binge. And I was telling him that this kind of reminds me of Pokemon in a sense, since you get all these legendary blades. And then I told him, which he was fascinated by, which I think sold him about, was that each different blade had its own personality. Each of the rare blades, not common ones. Yeah. They had their own personalities. They had their own designer, like their own artist, and he just loved that.
I honestly was very surprised when I found out each blade was done with its own artist. I was like, dude, this is amazing. And I'm a graphic designer. I'm the graphic designer for the channel. So
I'm the editor. So if there's any mistakes in editing, you know who to call. Not me, him.
Oh yeah, but I love art, and that goes with every game I've played. Like every game I played, I love the books. I literally have the box copy for it, so I have the art book for Xenoblade Chronicles 2. And I do the same thing with any game, but with that game, seeing that unique, feature for an RPG story game, like I was mind blown. And then there's a lot of other things to consider: great music, great characters.
Oh yeah, the soundtrack is amazing.
The only reason why I can't put it in my top 3 is because there's a couple of cringy things in the game that I've considered. I was like, as I've replayed it, I was like, okay, that was cringy. Like the first time.
If there's 2 things I have to say is cringy based on just appearances, it's just Rex, because Rex's pants are just so goofy looking, and his outfit. That it's just so goofy. And then his voice acting in the beginning where he's like, for like minutes, and you're just like,
don't get me wrong.
But it gets better. It gets better. It gets better.
I think it's still good. It's just it's that like taste you need at that moment. Like candy. It's sweet, but it's really not good for you. But it's really good. It's like one of those things where
usually stuff that aren't good for you are what tastes the best.
Yeah. Well, not always. Sometimes. Yeah. But I think that was my one concern with the game, and that's why I can't put it in the top 3. But it's definitely, in my opinion, better than Pokemon Platinum because I've had more impact with Xenoblade than I have Pokemon Platinum.
And speaking of impact from games, I have to go with let's make sure it's the right one, because they're next to each other on the same console. Is, funny enough, you'd think we would have planned this. We actually didn't. Xenoblade Chronicles 3, the next game in that series. And everything about this one, in my opinion, is an improvement of the last one. Mm-hmm. Like, the blades, as fun as they were very stressful to get because you had to get the legendary crystals and all this. While this one, you could unlock the game equivalent of blades, which is the classes, through playing the game, through the side quests, and all of them have their own personalities or heroes that you then just take their abilities from.
I honestly did think Xenoblade 3 was very excellent. Like, very excellent. The only thing that sucked for me was because I like monster catcher stuff. So that's why I like 2 better. But 3 is good.
Another thing, sorry to cut you off, but I felt like this one was a lot less cringy than the second one. Yeah. It had a more mature story, which I appreciated. And my favorite thing about it was just the development all the characters in the main party went through. They all felt like they grew up and matured into actual people rather than just video game characters. And it was hard to see the game end.
It was a very in-depth story, yeah, and it got you really attached to the characters. And I think they definitely it's a Monolith.
Yes.
Monolith definitely learned from the first and the second Xenoblade and the other one that
It makes
I
me
wish.
excited for whatever Xenoblade game.
Yeah, and they learned a lot. Well, the DLC was great. I know you didn't get to.
I didn't get to play it because I'm a poor bastard.
If you really love that game like base, then the DLC is just gonna add more flair to it. So
I have to play the DLC eventually.
no, it's really cool. I honestly did think Xenoblade 3 was good. Again, for me, it's that monster catcher.
Yep. And one of the best things about it is, in case you couldn't get it based on those two previous games, is I'm a sucker for romancing games. So the fact that one of the main plot points that develops the story is the romance between Noah and Mio, it just made me love the game even more. Yeah. But speaking of loving games, let's get to your next one.
All right. So for my next game, I have another obviously RPG. But another surprisingly monster catcher, you're noticing a trend over here. This one is Shin Megami Tensei 5. So I love this game.
Who introduced it to him? Who would you say?
Also my brother. Yes. I remember, I forgot what I was playing at the time. But I remember going to see what you were playing, and you were telling me about this game, and I knew what Atlas games were. I just never really considered them or got into them in the first place at that point.
Really good studio. Any game they usually touch turns into gold, especially Persona games. Those literally are golden.
Yeah, they came after. Yeah. Which is interesting because if you think about it, SMT is actually the first monster catcher.
It's the parent series of a lot of different.
Yeah, all Monster Rancher, Pokemon, Digimon, all that stuff kind of derives from SMT.
Well, not story wise, but they.
Oh yeah, it's a lot darker than it's but the first game came out in 1987.
I would have to look it up.
Yeah, I think it was on the Famicom, like old NES. And 1987 is a long time ago. Like I wasn't even born yet. So
yeah, I was far from even being a thought. Our parents weren't married yet.
Yeah, 1987. But it's crazy to think about because the game, from where it gets from that point to where we are now, is crazy. And SMT5 being the first SMT game that I've actually
no,
played.
they did get married. They got married in '86. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, you're good. SMT5 was the first game I played in an Atlas series like that, and that's what got me attached to it. I love tactics, like very difficult stats and stuff like that with Monster Catcher, so it's already up my alley. It's a very difficult game. I think it has one of the hardest bosses in every single Atlas game ever. And
Shiva.
Yeah, no. Demi-Fiend. The DLC one, yeah, which is a character from another game. So
SMT Nocturne, it's the favorite in the SMT series. That's my favorite. Yeah. Not Persona series. We'll get to that.
Yeah. No, it's really good. I like it a lot. So.
Yeah. My favorite thing about SMT5 though is just the Nahobino's design. Yes. It's really cool. It's unique, but it kind of reminds me of Demi-Fiend Plus. I remember when trailers were first announced of the game, people are like, "Oh, is this a continuation of Nocturne?" Because he reminds people of Demi-Fiend. Yeah. But what is really cool about the game is just the 3D environment, because SMT4 and SMT4 Apocalypse, the previous games in the franchise, didn't have the same 3D environment.
They didn't. It was 2D sprites battles.
And then even Nocturne was the last 3D SMT mainline game, and that was completely different than that. So
yeah, no, the random encounter thing wasn't a thing anymore for SMT5.
And that soundtrack is amazing. I could sit there and I could just level up for hours.
3 or 5?
For both, yes. Yeah. Just yes to that question, yes.
Yeah, no, 5 is very Atlas tends to get very heavy with the SMT music. And I love
Atlas goes hard on the music. Their soundtracks are always some of the best in gaming, in my opinion. So.
Yeah, they're definitely up there, on the tops. Well, let's see your next game. I have so much to talk about that, so I can't.
I would say this game has a good soundtrack, but it's okay in my opinion. Not compared to my number one game on the list, but we'll get there. Hold on. Why are you at the bottom? There you are. It's a game that a lot of people have known because it blew up the franchise in the West, and that is, hold on, let me grab it, Fire Emblem Three Houses. Yeah. Definitely an amazing game. For those of you that have never played it, what are you doing? The characters are just so good about it, and the combat, it's a little more tactical, not like traditional RPG where it's turn-based or anything. It's tactical, you move the unit around, whatever. But it's just so good. The opening is really good. It gets you hyped, it gets you invested. All the characters have their own motivations, and they're not just one-sided like comic relief or whatever, as some characters have been in previous Fire Emblem games. There's depth to them.
Yeah, when I played it, I've beaten it a few times, but not as much as you. But when I played it, there are characters I fell in love with. Like, these are very well done characters. The designs are very unique. There's like one or two characters I could say that I'm like, like their designs need a little work. But I mean, yeah, I mean that's kind of what happens though when you.
Ignatz is one character. If he was gone from the game, it wouldn't really make that much of a difference. And I just probably pissed off all the Ignatz fans, the four of you out there. But there's reasons why he gives me trauma from the times I played and had him as a unit.
I just feel like the game has it's such a large roster that it's okay. It's gonna be understandable that some will slip through the cracks. Yeah. But
even then, their stories are good.
Yeah, even then,
like Ignatz, as much as I clown on him, his whole thing about his parents like pushing him to become a knight, and he wants to pursue art and stuff. It's an interesting concept. Yeah. No, a lot of people could relate to it.
Very unique. I think that each of the characters have so much weight and depth that. Honestly, I think that, besides the combat, is like actually the driving force of the game.
In combat, if you're a type of guy who loves or a girl that loves statistics, you will love it because you could literally just sit there and like manipulate the growth patterns of units depending on classes.
Yeah.
But I don't know why, because by left there is a one-person army. You could literally play the game with just them. People have beaten the game with just them.
Just by left. Yeah, by left's pretty strong.
Yeah. The classes they get access to are ridiculous.
The way I look at it is it's more like chess. You know, it's a tactic style game, man. You know, like all that tactic stuff, you get like a chessboard and you have your pieces, except all your pieces are way more unique than a regular chess piece. Yep. So you get more.
There's no pawns. They're all kings in their own right.
Yeah. Yeah, kings and queens. Yeah, they're very powerful. And I think that game deserves definitely the second place spot.
Yep, it definitely deserves my second place.
Yeah, it definitely deserves second place.
But your second place is up next. I was almost about to go to honorable mentions, but I was like, wait, he didn't do his second yet.
My second place, I actually do not own a unfortunate physical copy.
I just saw it.
So I have beaten this very recently, Yakuza Like a Dragon. I literally just beat it like the other day, and it got me hooked. Yeah. Like, I was hooked. I've never played. Actually, that's a lie. I tried playing a Yakuza game before. I tried Yakuza 0, but I wasn't feeling the beat 'em up. No. I got like a little through the game, and I was like, I can't power through this right now.
Yeah, your fingers get sore after so many just.
Well, it's like
your buttons so much.
I just eventually realized like this style's cool, and I respect it for uniqueness that it has. Yeah. But I gotta come back to it eventually when I'm ready to play that type of game. So I was like, what other game can I look up in the Yakuza series that will fit what I'm trying to do? And lo and behold, I find a turn-based RPG, Like a Dragon, and that's it. Like I got it on the PlayStation Store, but the game catalog thing comes for free, and I was like, all right, let me try it out. I kid you not, that's it, gone, like hooked.
The amount of times he's like, oh my god, I'm playing Like a Dragon. I probably, if I got a nickel for every time, I think I would be a billionaire right now. Very cringy saying.
That's a lot of money. That's a lot of saying. I don't think it was that much, but it was definitely a lot.
You kidding me? I remember every day whenever we would go to get dinner, you'd be like, yo, I was playing Like a Dragon earlier. Yeah, Like a Dragon. Yeah. But
I mean, it's a good game.
One of the main reasons he does like it, though, is it reminds him of his favorite anime ever, One Piece.
Yes, so the characters, like the main party members, the writer actually has admitted to this, that he's a big One Piece fan, which is pretty interesting. So all those characters take inspiration. I mean, the main character, right in the center, Ichiban Kasuga, is basically Luffy with a little more faults, because you can't really make a character as free as Luffy. So with Kasuga, It was a very well written character. I enjoyed it. The game embodies its goofy nature and still has points that you're sitting there and you're like, oh my god, this is very serious. And that's why I like One Piece, because it's the same thing. So I think
has its goofy moments, but it has its serious moments. Like you were telling me about, like, there's a scene where there's a grown man in a diaper, and he's telling you this like very serious story, but you could still take the scene very serious.
Yes, yes.
And that's a sign of good writing. Like, sure, you'll joke about it, but there's still some like sincerity and some like some depth.
Yeah.
I'm using that word a lot, but there's some depth to the character aside from just haha man in diaper.
Yeah, and I think that's what I like about it. Like, that someone sat there and said, hey, we're going to put this dude in a diaper. Well, there's actually a few dudes in diapers in the quest. But you put them, and then all of a sudden, like, they're talking about very serious stuff. And, you know, being able to, as a viewer, be like, put aside the fact that the person is in an adult diaper, standing there with nothing else on, by the way, and still talking you very serious. Like, yeah, that shit's funny, but you're still able to grasp the serious stuff that's happening. That to me, yeah, that's definitely good writing. That's definitely a good job. So it's surprising I just beat it and it made it to my second place. So it's very refreshed in my mind, but to pass a lot of those other games blew my mind.
And speaking of games that were passed, this is our honorable mentions.
Oh yeah.
And before we get into that, we just want to say, if you clearly made it this far, you like the content, so please support us, subscribe, like, share, and let us know what you think. But back to the list.
Oh, wait, and before that, in the comments, do also type what your top fives are.
Yes,
we want to see that.
We want to see it. And make sure it's respectful dialogue, because if there's someone out there that's just like, yo, your list is garbage because how dare you put blah, blah, blah on it, remember, it's all personal opinion.
It is all personal opinion.
Like, there could be a game also that we just overlooked, that made an impact us, that we just forgot. Like, there's so many games out there.
So many games.
I have over like 200 games, and I think 90% of them are RPGs.
It
could happen.
When we said 5, I was ready to like pull my hair out because of how difficult this was actually being. There's a few that didn't even make honorable mention that I'm sad they couldn't.
One of the games that he has up there, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, I almost swapped in for Xenoblade Chronicles 3. It would have been in that location, but I was like, you know what? I like Xenoblade Chronicles 3 more. But speaking of honorable mentions, here's my first one. It's a little game called South Park: The Fractured Butthole. That's 2 words, butt and hole, not one word.
Yeah.
But it's I have the physical copy before I forget.
Good game. I haven't really played it, but I've seen so many good things.
With it, you know what you get. And the reason why I didn't make my list is because it's a South Park game. It's very goofy, it's funny, and it's not a knock against it, but it doesn't have like that serious nature or like as much almost like in self-insert that like Fire Emblem could have, or Dragon Age, or Mass Effect. It's a little less like role playing and more just pure. I should put it where you know where it goes.
Yeah.
Just it's a goofy, very funny game. Like, I cannot sit there and say I didn't enjoy it, because otherwise it wouldn't be on this honorable mention list.
Yeah, I have it on my Switch. I haven't played it, but I do want to play it.
When you're ever stressed out, if you have that game or you have its predecessor, Stick of Truth, just play it, because you're gonna be lost in time, and you're just gonna be having fun, laughing, relaxing, and just enjoying yourself.
Yeah, no, it definitely.
The combat is also very simple. It's not very difficult. It's similar. It's similar to an RPG, a more RPG version of Fire Emblem. That's the best way I could put it.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, no, I definitely got to play it. But what's your other honorable?
My other honorable mention has a comedy theme to it too. And you see what it is based on this. It's Fable 2, which, for those of you that haven't played Fable 2, it's a morality type game similar to Dragon Age and Mass Effect. But the difference is it's so goofy. It reminds me of GTA in the sense where there's all these like NPCs that you could just do whatever the hell you want. Like, you can murder them, you could date them, you could marry them, you could have 50 wives and 50 kids, you could do whatever the hell you want. Like,
yeah, that was one of the things I remember doing a lot when I played Fable. Because Fable's like a quintessential RPG from that era. Like, in general, 1, 2, and 3, they're all very iconic. 2, I remember, like, that was the first one I was like, damn, I'm gonna make my character a total slut. Like I just went around and I had kids upon kids upon kids upon kids upon kids. Like,
Yep.
yeah, and I don't. Did 2 have the orphan system?
No, 3 did.
3 did. Okay, so 2 didn't have that.
Well, I think they did, but I don't remember.
It's been a long time. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been starting a second playthrough on it, but and about that, one of the best things about it is, like I said, morality. There's 2 different ways you could be moral. You could be pure or you could be corrupt, and then there's the hero villain, the typical hero villain. And pure and corrupt could be you could be a villain but be a pure soul. So you're a jerk, but you're pure about it. I don't know how else to describe it. Like you're not scamming people, but you would just kill them indiscriminately. That's the best way to word it. Or you could be reverse, where you're destroying the local economies by buying all the properties and maxing out the rent or maxing out prices of basic goods, doing stuff like that. Destroying lives of people. But you're a hero because you saved the world.
It's a very good game. It does a really good job.
And since your character is silent, the way he interacts with people is doing like emotes and stuff. Like there's something where he's dancing, or like he's what's another funny one where he tickles them, a whole bunch of other.
So why didn't it make the top?
The reason it didn't make the top 5 is I just felt like as goofy as it is, it just didn't have the same like character development and depth, and the side characters were kind of lacking compared to Mass Effect or any of the other games up here. It was just basically a main character as the only really true character, and a few side characters, but they weren't major.
Yeah. No, I would definitely remember that. I think 3 had more depth than 2, but 2 was more iconic.
But yeah, and then 2 also had more of a story I liked more. 3 was cool, but it lacked in a few categories. So, what are your honorable mentions?
First one is actually a game I don't own the physical copy for, but Shin Megami Tensei 4. First time I played this game, I was really a big fan of it, and I obviously love Shin Megami Tensei, but I played this one after, and I think the reason why I truly love this one is the roster. He's huge. It's like 400 something demons you can get in the game, and obviously there's a monster catcher trend through the games that I play. So that's.
Let's see, which one's a monster catcher? 1, 2, 3 of them, 4 of them.
4 of them. Did we count Xenoblade as a monster catcher?
In a sense, yeah.
Yeah. So we're gonna put you.
But that was my actual first SMT game, SMT4, and I thought it was okay. My issue with SMT4 though is it's just the fact it's on the DS. I felt like it kind of took back away, and then once you get into the end game, there's no really clear way to keep track of your alignment. So like if you're trying to get the chaos or law ending, you almost have to keep track, like if you know what you're doing. So you have to know what the endings are, and you have to know what you're aiming for, because a random dialogue choice in the beginning of the game starts setting your morality.
Yeah. No, there was a crazy thing about it that to me, like the game itself did really well. I think the only reason it can't make it is because all these other games have more impact than SMT4 did, both SMT4 and SMT4 Apocalypse. Like that game, I loved it, but it just did not reach the cut for me. So, but that's fine. And the other game that didn't reach the cut is Final Fantasy XII: The Zodiac Age. So this is actually the first RPG I actually played. Yeah,
I never played it.
I played this game back. I must have been like around like 12, 10 maybe. I don't remember. It was a long time ago. I forgot when the game came out.
Our cousin brought it over, and he fell in love with the game instantly.
Yeah. My cousin was like, "You play video games and stuff," and we were like, "Yeah." And he showed us this game called Final Fantasy 12. I have the older copy on PS2 down there, but the copy I really care about is the Zodiac Age one because I think it's better. We don't have the original copy we played back then because that was my cousin's. I actually found that PS2 one eventually and got it. But no, the game's good. I love it, and it has a very special place in my heart because it's the first RPG I ever played. But it was the only reason it can't make the cut is it's as I played that game more, I realized its faults a lot with the characters, and it started to lower down for me, but it's still always going to be there as something very important. It's like anime. Like I have that anime I first watched that I love, but I know it was not good.
Yeah.
You know.
Like it's with anything, especially with games that are. My number one game though does not have faults.
Yeah.
And I could say that confidently because I know a lot of you who have played this game could probably say the same.
Mm-hmm.
Because that game, if we're ready to move on,
Yeah.
that game is. Don't get stuck at the bottom now. There you go. Persona 4 Golden. And once I said that, I know a lot of people are like, and probably lit up because that is hands down my favorite RPG ever. And probably a top 3 game for me because everything from the soundtrack. When you open the game, the soundtrack is just so beautiful. And it made me cry the first time I replayed it because it was just so nostalgic.
It's done really well. I haven't beat it,
amazingly.
but I still haven't beat it.
Characters are so good.
No, it's just the characters, the music. I love the starting song when you start up that game. It always gets me very hyped. And again, yeah, I haven't beat it, but that's because I have to get back into it. I have so many games that I have to like get back into.
And the thing that's the best about it is it balances like mystery elements, and it balances like goofing off with your friends, developing like friendships, like the developing the bonds that surround your heart as the game words it. And it also makes it a gameplay element because it's not like, oh, you're just doing this to do it. Like your combat gets stronger because you're able to make stronger personas and level them up better. And it's a very beautiful game. Like everything about it. Like I was in high school when I played this for the first time, and I just loved it. And every time I replay it or hear about it, it brings a tear to my eye. That's the best way to put it without going too in depth because I know one day I will review this game.
It's a very, very good game. Yeah, it's one of those things I definitely have to like finish and play. The thing is, I just beat Persona 3 not that long ago, so I'm already worn out from Persona games.
And Persona 3 is a good game, but it holds nothing compared to this one. At least for me. I know a lot of people love it.
I always hear 4 is like one of the best ones, and 5 are the ones people talk about the most. 3 has its quirks. Yeah. But I'll get that. Definitely get back to it eventually and start gaming on it. And then I'll let you know how that gets if it gets in my top 5.
Yeah. But for those of you, you have to play this. Like without a doubt, play this. Yeah. That's even if you never play any of the other games on this list, including his, play Persona 4 Golden. You will not regret it. It is an time investment because you will, but it's time well spent. Because you're not going to be able to put it down.
It's like watching One Piece, bro. You better prepare.
There are little cringy moments, but they're cringy in a good way. Yeah. Like there's a certain scene in the game, where you're just eating watermelon with your friends in summer, and it's a cool scene because it just feels like it. You have to play it to really get it, but it's really good. No, it's anyway, good. I put the cap on my list. Let's see what finalize yours.
So again, Monster Catcher Train. The only one that wasn't really Monster Catcher was one of my honorable mentions, right? And Yakuza, which technically has monster catching in it, surprisingly. But the next one is another big monster catcher, Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth.
His number one, which was introduced by me.
Like I knew what Digimon was, but I know obviously. But I never knew there was a Digimon story game for Cyber Sleuth. Like, it blew my mind when I found that out. My brother showed me the game. I got into it, and I didn't put it down for a while. I actually have, like, more... So, I have it on PC, which is the complete edition. I have it on Switch, which is the complete edition. And then on PlayStation 4, I have both games separate. So the first one doesn't have all the Digimon that you get. But I remember, like, if I go on my Switch right now and I were to check the save, because the way the Switch works, you can leave it on and let your things farm. So that save has, I think, 800 something hours on it. Yeah. And, you know, a lot of that is when you put the Switch down, you just let it, you know, go. But, like, in reality, out of that, I probably played, like, almost 300 hours on that game, on that save, and that's the Switch. PC I have more, and on the PlayStation 4 I have more. So
It is a really good game for those of you that haven't played it, and that's obviously a theme with this because probably not a lot of people played this.
yeah, it's one of those games that I know not a lot of people like know about. Like every time,
But in my opinion, it's better than in majority of Pokemon games, and I know that's gonna piss off a lot of people, but it is because as you grow up, you need a little bit of a darker story too. Obviously, the light heart of Pokemon is good, but the darkness in this is really cool. It's not too much. There are cringy moments because it's a JRPG. JRPGs always have cringy moments.
They always do, yeah.
But the thing about this one is you could self-insert yourself and feel like you're the main character in this, enjoying the journey. You're like a detective. You're working cyber cases, and it's just a really cool game.
I honestly think the main reason why Pokemon is so popular is because people are just attached to their Pokemons.
Brandon.
Yeah, the branding is just there, and I think advertising. So, Digimon obviously doesn't advertise as much because Bandai Namco doesn't focus on it. Although they have been doing pretty well of recent years, and I'm excited for when the next Digimon story game comes out because I love that game a lot, and I've played the other ones that came out around that time, and I thought they were great. But that game, yeah, it has cringy moments, but it's harder than Pokemon. Not as hard as SMT. It's like smack in the middle.
And the reason why, for me, is this is a favorite game of mine, but the reason why it's not even in the honorable mentions is the characters do lack a little depth, and there's a little like lack of depth in certain parts of the story, and I felt like a lot of these other games were more a complete package, at least in my perspective. But what I did think this game did better than most of my games is just the complete diversity of all the characters, because and by that I mean like just there's grown-up characters, there's like characters in high school, there's like old characters, and there's all these different side missions that you could get in quests and stuff.
A lot of Digimon you could do quests for.
And the world building and that is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a very good world building.
Because there's like a virtual reality where everyone goes to and like it does everything from business to all that.
You can tell that our taste, like your taste, is more like character development and stuff, while my taste is more like statistics, the monsters, and the whatever the mechanics are.
To me, what makes me love a game is the characters.
Yeah.
The characters and story. Like I could deal with a little bad gameplay if the characters and story make me invested. Because the game could have, in my opinion at least, the game could have the best gameplay in the world, but if it's not drawing me in, I'm not going to play.
It's a very inconclusive thing, like we're talking here about like why, because honestly that's what this has made me realize, like where our taste lies. With your first game being Dragon Age, which yes, it's combat, but it's very social heavy between the relationships with the characters. No. And my first one is Final Fantasy 12, which is like, yeah, that the story is big for a Final Fantasy game. Everyone knows that.
First games, that's just our first RPG.
Yeah, first RPGs, and I've noticed that I'm driven more towards like the mechanics, the statistics, because Final Fantasy 12 has a lot of that. I mean, most Final Fantasy games do, but they're like quintessential RPGs. No. But I realized like, wow, it made me realize that like you're more into the story. I like the story, don't get me wrong, but
Speaking of story, this storybook needs to come to an end because we are over on time.
That's okay.
Yeah, we're almost 10 minutes over. We don't want to bore you guys by talking too long, but like I said earlier, if you stayed this long, clearly like the content. So we'll see you next time, hopefully. Yeah. Let me just say, I wrote notes on what to say. Blah, 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 blah. But if you have any criticism or any compliments or anything, any suggestions of what you want us to talk about next, please drop it in the comments. But any praise is accepted, any criticism accepted. Just try not to be too harsh with it because we do have hearts and souls. But we thank you for watching from the bottom of our hearts. Yeah. I'm your host, Christian Martinez.
And I'm your host, Gabriel Martinez.
Peace out.
Logging out.